Before we get into today's conversation, let me take a second to say thank you to all of you for clicking on this video. For those of you who are new, I'll explain what this channel is about. We are a couple of millennials in New York City who work behind the scenes in the entertainment industry. After many years of working with celebrated individuals, we decided to start a video series dissecting the world of influencers. What makes them famous and celebrated, and what do they owe their success to? Do they have any talent? Is their career sustainable, or is it just a fad? Come along with us as we dissect today's topic: why is Shane Dawson so popular? Shane Lee Yaw, known professionally as Shane Dawson, is an American YouTuber. He became one of the first people to rise to fame on the video sharing platform YouTube. In 2008, at age 19, Dawson began making videos on YouTube and garnered over 500 million views by 2010. Most of his early work consisted of sketch comedy videos where he would play original characters, impersonate celebrities, and make light of popular culture. Some of these impressions later drew criticism for their offensive content, including racial stereotypes. During this time, Dawson also had a short-lived music career, releasing 6 songs such as Super Love and numerous parodies of popular music videos. In 2013, he launched his podcast, Shane and Friends, which ran for 4 years and produced 140 episodes. The following year, Dawson released his first and only feature film, Not Cool, and appeared on an accompanying 10-episode docuseries called The Chair. He has also appeared in the film Smiley, which was released in 2012, and Internet Famous in 2016. In 2015, Dawson began a show on YouTube about conspiracy theories, which includes his 2019 web series, Conspiracy Series with Shane Dawson. In late 2017, he released his first docuseries on YouTube, in which he reconciled with his absent father. From 2019 to 2020, Dawson created and appeared in The Beautiful World of Jeffree Star, a docu-series that follows the life of Jeffree Star, which garnered over 130 million views. His most viewed docu-series are about Jake Paul, Jeffree Star, and Tanacon. As of 2018, Dawson has released 2 New York Best Times selling books, I Hate My Selfie, which was released in 2015, and It Gets Worse, which was released in 2016. And his 3 YouTube channels have accumulated over 4.5 billion views. Since 2017, he maintains one active channel, Shane, with 20 million subscribers and over 4 billion views. On June 30th, 2020, YouTube indefinitely suspended monetization on all 3 of Dawson's channels following a public backlash over his past controversial comments. He returned to YouTube on October 7th, 2021. Now, Dawson has been criticized for his racial comedy, particularly his use of blackface in several past skits, his use of the N-word in multiple videos, and his jokes about ghetto pranks at VidCon in 2012. In September 2014, YouTuber Francesca Ramsey and other bloggers criticized Dawson for his past actions. He later apologized for the jokes in the video, stating that he viewed the controversy as a learning experience. Many of his past performances relied on caricatures of people of color and other minorities, and he used blackface to portray Wendy Williams and Chris Brown in some skits, leading to allegations of racism. In 2018, Dawson was the subject of a controversy regarding comments he made about pedophilia on a 2013 episode of his podcast Shane and Friends, in which he published an apology video likening his comedic style at the time to that of shock jokes. The same comments were also the subject of a March 2019 controversy, coupled with controversy regarding comments he had made on a 2015 episode of the same podcast about engaging in sexual activity with his cat. On June 26, 2020, Dawson responded to criticism of his racial comedy by posting a 20-minute video titled Taking Accountability, addressing renewed criticism for his use of blackface, the N-word, and other offensive comments he made since launching his YouTube channel. Although he had apologized publicly before, Dawson claimed he had only recently realized how those apologies suck, stating, "I don't know who that person is anymore," and further remarking how he should have been punished for things, and to finally just own up to all of this and be accountable is worth losing everything to me. Dawson also apologized to James Charles, who he had described as egocentric and power-hungry just a week before. Dawson concluded in his apology video by vowing to be better with his actions, but said he understands if people do not want to accept his apology or no longer support him. He also claimed that he dealt with the pain from his childhood by making inappropriate jokes. "It is something I did for shock value or because I thought it was funny. It's all gross, and I promise that that is not real. That is not me." Hours after his apology was posted, musician Jaden Smith accused Dawson of sexualizing his sister Willow Smith, expressing how he was disgusted after an old video resurfaced of Dawson pretending to touch himself in a sexual manner while looking at a poster of a then 11-year-old Willow Smith. Jaden and Willow's mother, Jada Smith, also responded, tweeting, "To Shane Dawson, I'm done with the excuses." On June 29, 2020, even Target announced that it was in the process of removing Dawson's 2 published books, I Hate My Selfie and It Gets Worse, from its shelves. On June 30th, as I said before, YouTube indefinitely suspended monetization on all 3 of Dawson's channels. I mean, there is just a flood of problematic content that's just endless when it comes to Shane Dawson. And I mean, when the floodgates opened, he quickly did craft an apology video, but the evidence was just too huge to ignore. Like, no apology would be enough to contain all of this. And then things just only got worse from there because you had former celebrities and YouTubers revealing more info about how Shane wasn't the empath he portrayed in his videos. And we saw that when he did the Instagram Live, when his anger and his frustration was in full effect. So it's like suddenly this nice guy that wanted to help everyone turned into the modeled sociopath Shane framed others to be, and every positive statement ever said about Dawson kind of evaporated. Then he continued digging deeper by severing ties with close friends, becoming closer with even more troublesome people, and putting money and power over everything else. Shane went from being YouTube's hero to villain instantly, and no amount of PR could save him. His fiancée Rylan didn't make the situation better by getting involved in the drama, and suddenly everyone Shane's ever supported came out against them. And as of 2021, Shane is metaphorically canceled, but there's no doubt he'll always have a fan base that will support him. He's been missing in action for several months, but I highly doubt he'll stay off the platform much longer. Regardless, Dawson's downfall was probably the biggest plunge we've ever witnessed in the online content creator space, and I don't see how he'll ever recover from this. Many creators think he should retire from the platform permanently, and there's plenty of evidence to support this. However, that is unlikely to happen. Shane will be around due to many reasons. No matter how much negativity he'll draw from this point on, he's always going to have fans, and if you've grown up with someone for 10 plus years, it's very difficult letting them go, particularly if they inspired you to create your own content. Now, I can say for myself that personally, I'm ashamed to have liked him in the first place, and I don't see how he could be redeemed. It's not just the horrible racist, sexist, and worse jokes. It's the fact that he showed us all who he actually was. I knew who Shane Dawson was, but never paid attention to him. But I started watching when he started working on the docuseries around Jeffree Star and Jake Paul. I thought that it was edited, it was very good, great content, and I actually was fascinated how someone can get millions of views just by posting a video, but it was very well done when he was working at that time. But learning about his history and the things that have happened in the past, it's just, I mean, things took a turn for a worse. Great job with the conspiracy makeup palette collection with Jeffree Star, which was also unique and interesting, but for the most part, I mean, you can't say that Shane Dawson was never the biggest YouTuber and he was never number one, but that didn't matter. Like, he did something other digital stars could only dream of, and he definitely was a trendsetter for YouTube. I mean, starting with comedy shorts, then turning to music videos, drama parody skips, YouTube collaborations, trendy content, and then like the docuseries. He literally rode like every wave of YouTube and created his own in the process. And even though it wasn't necessarily smooth, he did manage it for quite some time. And at one point, you know, you could say that he was kind of like the male version of Kathy Griffin. I read that in an article before, but I mean, I don't know about that. I'm actually a fan of Kathy Griffin, and I don't look at them as at all being anything near each other. So, but what you can say is that a lot of young people today who do want to become YouTubers, you can guarantee Shane was one of the main reasons why. You know, YouTube kind of is this young person platform. And many viewers today grew up with it. So Shane's been around for over a decade and was one of the biggest pioneers of YouTube today. So we've already seen some of his former viewers achieve their own fame, and we're probably going to see more young viewers get inspired from them and so forth in this continuous cycle. However, the next wave of YouTubers will likely be smarter, craftier, and more equipped to handle the ups and downs of YouTube. They'll be business people, creatives, and entrepreneurs, and they'll have former YouTubers to thank for paving that path over a decade ago. So that is true. I mean, I guess we can thank someone like Shane Dawson because, for example, with what I'm doing right now, I probably wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for individuals like Shane Dawson. And we over here behind the scenes working in the industry, a lot of this that I think that now there's more of a transparency when it comes to content, and you have a lot of people, even though they're controversial and people don't necessarily care for them, you have to give Shane his credit where it's due. We definitely do, but that leads me to go back. It's like working behind the scenes in the industry and working with a lot of influencers, and I've never met Shane Dawson personally, and I don't think any of my peers have, but a lot of these influencers are just trash. They're awful. They have the biggest egos, but that's no different than anyone that works in entertainment, because a lot of celebrities are like that. Some intentionally, others not so much, but it's not what it's all cracked up to be. But that leads me to think, what makes someone so famous and celebrated, and what do they owe their success to? And you can say with Shane Dawson, even though you can say a lot, he is definitely an artistic director. He is a filmmaker. He does know how to do great content when he actually tries. I mean, the racism and all of that other stuff, I'd never have been the type of person who has cared for that type of racist behavior. It's not funny. If that's what you have to do to be funny, then newsflash, you're not funny. You know what I mean? But for the most part, I say when it comes to creating content, like when you see with the documentaries that he's put together, he does have an eye for talent, and I would say that he is talented. Is his career sustainable? Yes and no. Do I think that he's going to be as big as he is? No, but he will definitely have a loyal fan base that will follow him. So if he decides that he wants to put together a line of t-shirts and decides to sell them and do a limited edition, he'll definitely, he'll always have money because he will have a loyal fan base that will support him regardless of what happens, what has happened or what has yet to happen. So I mean, I would say that Shane Dawson is popular because Shane Dawson is a pioneer when it comes to YouTube. And then I also question the fact that mainstream media kind of looked over him. But then you have other TikTok stars like an Addison Rae, or you have a Jake Paul. So it makes me wonder if Shane was considered more desirable when it comes to physicality or things like that. Would he have been bigger than he was? Because technically he is big, he just wasn't considered mainstream media. But I mean, the fact that he has billions of views on his YouTube channel, it's just shocking that mainstream media didn't want to pick him up. And then you think of other people like Cameron Dallas, who I definitely think we're going to do a video about. But yeah, this is so interesting. It's just one of these things where you've worked with agencies, and a lot of times there's contracts that go around, and a lot of times people just don't even know who these influencers are. So we end up doing a lot of research on them and seeing if they've had any past controversies, and a lot of it goes into, there's a lot, and maybe we'll discuss this at a later video, but I find it entirely interesting. But I would love to hear your thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on Shane Dawson? Do you think that he's going to have a career comeback? Do you still support him knowing about his past? And what do you hope to see in the future? If there's anything that you think that Shane can learn from his past experiences within these past few years, what would it be? With that being said, thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you would like to see more content like this, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. They'll be business people, creatives, and entrepreneurs, and they'll have former YouTubers to thank for paving that path over a decade ago. So that is true. I mean, I guess we can thank someone like Shane Dawson because, for example, with what I'm doing right now, I probably wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for individuals like Shane Dawson. And we over here, behind the scenes, working in the industry, a lot of this that I think that now there's more of a transparency when it comes to content, and you have a lot of people, even though they're controversial and people don't necessarily care for them, you have to give Shane his credit where it's due. We definitely do, but that leads me to go back. It's like working behind the scenes in the industry and working with a lot of influencers, and I've never met Shane Dawson personally, and I don't think any of my peers have, but a lot of these influencers are just trash. They're awful. They have the biggest egos, but that's no different than anyone that works in entertainment, because a lot of celebrities are like that. Some intentionally, others not so much, but it's not what it's all cracked up to be. But that leads me to think, what makes someone so famous and celebrated, and what do they owe their success to? And you can say with Shane Dawson, even though you can say a lot, like, he is definitely an artistic director. He is a filmmaker. He does know how to do great content when he actually tries. I mean, the racism and all of that other stuff, I'd never have been the type of person who has cared for that type of racist behavior. It's not funny. If that's what you have to do to be funny, then newsflash, you're not funny. You know what I mean? But for the most part, I say when it comes to creating content, like when you see with the documentaries that he's put together, he does have an eye for talent, and I would say that he is talented. Is his career sustainable? Yes and no. Do I think that he's going to be as big as he is? No, but he will definitely have a loyal fan base that will follow him. So if he decides